Welcome to the special session and panel discussion. Here to begin today's session is the Chairman and CEO of KPMG, John V. Meyer.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for being here. I know you've had a busy day, but thanks for hustling over here to the Convention Center and allowing us to kick this session off on time. I'm John V. Meyer, Chairman and CEO of KPMG here in the U.S. and in our Americas. And I'm joined today by three CEOs who you all are really going to enjoy hearing from. And let me share a little bit of their highlights and their bio with all of you before we get started. J.P. Bilbray, on my left, the President and CEO of Hershey Foods. I know you all know Hershey. You love chocolate, and JP's got more than 30 years experience in the consumer goods industry. He spent 22 years at Procter & Gamble before joining Hershey, and he currently sits on the board of McCormick & Company, as well as the Grocery Manufacturers Association of America, and has a degree in psychology from Kansas State University. So JP, thanks for joining us today. We're also joined by Louisa Wong, who is the founder and executive chairman of Belo Associates. It's really a network based in Asia of over 25 offices with over 500 people doing executive search, particularly CEO search, primarily in the Asia region, although they've just opened an office in New York, so a truly international executive search practice. Louisa is well publicized and has been written and spoken extensively on a number of subjects. She got her MBA from Harvard and her undergraduate degree from the University of Toronto. So Louisa, thank you for joining us today. And it's my pleasure to introduce Mike Duke, the President and CEO of Walmart. You've heard of Walmart, I have a feeling. Mike, thanks for being with us today. I know we've got a large international group here today, and among the many things that Mike has accomplished while he's been President and CEO of Walmart, the growth in the international operations of Walmart under your leadership has been incredible, to say the least, Mike. So congratulations, and thank you for joining us today. So we're going to take advantage of having three really experienced, prominent, and leading CEOs with us today to talk about a topic which I think all of you are interested in. I know how passionate all of you are with respect to the difference and the impact you can make in the broader community and the world around you. And notwithstanding what you may read in a lot of newspapers and see on a lot of news shows that you may be listening to on TV, the CEOs I interact with on a regular basis are as passionate and committed about using their position in their companies and really influencing their organizations to have a huge impact in the world around us. And we're going to spend a few minutes today with this group of CEOs talking about what drives them and what they're seeing in the evolution of their community service activities within the companies and the organizations that they lead. So we're going to save some time at the end for some questions. There's a microphone down in front, and I'll give you a heads up as to when you should start making your way to that microphone if you have some questions that you all would like to ask. So, JP, let me start with you. I think, you know, one of the things that I get a lot in terms of questions I get asked is, what do you even mean by corporate social responsibility? And it's, I think, defined by different companies in a lot of different ways. And why don't you share from Hershey's perspective and your perspective,
Sure.
how do you even define corporate social responsibility?
Well, over 100 years ago, our founder really described this in his words as doing well by doing good. And I think it's still relevant today. We really think about three areas that we focus on. First of all, our relationships with our consumers, the communities where we work, and then our company has a special focus around children. And so all around the world, we tend to gravitate outside of the first two things and really have a big focus around children. And I'll give you a couple of thoughts on this. And this is one where I think for all of us as leaders, regardless of where we're at, we have the opportunity to make a difference really with our own personal leadership. Because I think this is something you can say for your corporation, it's a good thing to do. But I think it can be far more powerful and impactful if, in fact, you personally and individually take responsibility. Because I've often said that I think whenever any of us reach our expiration date, I don't know a better, more polite way to think about that, we probably won't remember in 1991 how we did against our goals and measures, but we'll probably remember the impact we had on lives and people and the talent within our different organizations. So I think of this within three buckets. I think there's a bucket I would call a selfish bucket. I think there's another bucket I would call the social bucket. And I think there's a third bucket that I would describe as the shareholder bucket. The social, or the selfish bucket is where you see people doing things because they feel it's a requirement or they believe that for some reason they need to demonstrate that they're doing something. And I suppose on some level that's okay for someone that might make that decision because they are doing something. But I think we and I think most companies really want to see themselves in the social bucket. And the social bucket's where I think the greatest impact is. Are you really making a difference in lives? And then the shareholder bucket, the way we think about it, is from a sustainability standpoint, not just from a cost standpoint, do our shareholders tolerate what we're doing, but are we really ensuring the sustainability of the company over time because we're picking the right issues and things which to work on? I'll touch on a couple of things. Milton Hershey and his wife, Catherine, they didn't have any kids. So they were very focused on kids. She died as a young woman. He established a foundation for, at the time, what was orphan boys and has evolved into disadvantaged kids. And so the Hershey Trust actually is accountable for about 1,800 kids that go to school in Hershey, Pennsylvania. They're disadvantaged. They come from all around the United States. And because of this great legacy, while we don't talk about it as a company in terms of what you do with a Hershey bar ultimately comes back, about 30% of the economic value of the company is actually benefiting the continuation of this school. And kids that go to that school really quite frequently say, this school has saved my lives. They can come when they're in kindergarten, they leave when they're graduates of high school, and we also help them go on to college. So as we look to other places, and cocoa is important to the business that we're in Ghana, Ivory Coast, we have tried then to continue this same type of effort with kids. And so we're involved with clinics and schools and the supply chain in these countries where cocoa is such an important ingredient to our overall business. And we're now creating connectivity via the web between some of these schools in a village with the kids at the Milton Hershey School. And so we've actually been able to take that in a bit of a global manner. And then, just one other example of something that has made a difference in people's lives is we invested about $10 million in the Ivory Coast in cell phone technology. And so we actually distribute cell phones into villages, into poor farmers that may be in remote locations. And we teach them how to use the phone, best practices with farming, and then also what's happening with crop prices and other things such as that. And so it's created a whole new connectivity. And then the other thing that's interesting is their kids are in many instances helping the parents, hey, here's how you use this, here's what the cost is, et cetera. And so, we all feel good about that. Certainly there's a lot of great efforts with a lot of terrific companies around the world, but this is one of the real focus areas for us, and our employees get highly involved, and we make trips to West Africa and get a chance to be with the kids, and it's just terrific, and I think it enables each of us in our business lives to do something far fuller than just the average day.
That's great. Thank you. Hopefully we'll have a chance to get back and get into even more detail on some of those programs, because they sound great. And you touched about what you're doing outside the U.S. Louisa, obviously you're based primarily in the Asian region. We have a lot of folks here from all over the world. Talk about how you view corporate responsibility from your perspective as a leading CEO in Asia.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the questions. I believe that every corporation, today, they're government, business, as well as citizens. So in our part of the world, there are a lot of collaboration between business as well as corporation. And the social issues that are happening in our part of the world are plenty. And there are not many of those needs in society have been addressed by government. That's where corporations can play a key role in fulfilling some of those needs. As a corporate, we feel we derive profit from the communities we live in. As a result, it's our interest to make sure those communities are served and can last. And so I define corporate responsibility as the responsibility of corporation in the community and the society it serves. And it goes hand in hand. And I often believe that obviously we are not a listed company. As a privately held company, we strongly believe it's not how much profit we should be measured. It is how we make the profit. This is how we should be measured ourselves. And that as a corporation, we should all live with common purpose. And that purpose is to serve the societies that we live in. And the better the society, the more business opportunities for all corporations that the society serve. So it's a mutual benefit. So for us, we are in an executive search in a professional services. It is in our big and our great interest to make sure that future leaders like all of you have a good future, and that we always believe that our purpose is very simple. One successful candidate, one happy families. And we believe that we can help leaders, future leaders, to make sometimes the biggest decisions in their career. And if they can make it right, do it right, the benefit for their family and for the societies is tremendous. We also serve corporations. We also believe that in our company, our biggest asset is our clients. And that we would like to also help them not only to find the greatest leader, to help them to achieve their goals, but also to facilitate corporate givings. Because we don't, unlike Hershey, we don't have products, but we have clients, and we like to make sure that we serve corporate givings the best to help them. So we also developed a nonprofit organization called Giving Hand, which is to facilitate corporate givings, focus on product donations. There are a lot of corporations have goods, like Walmart, that are either late inventory or inventory that they cannot be sold on time. We match them with charities that need them. In our part of the world, in China in particular, nonprofit organizations are not well organized and sometimes not recognized. And so for corporations to give is actually very difficult. So there is always a desire, but to make it happen is extremely difficult for logistics as well as for tax, as well as to make sure those goods are going to the right place. So we, as an entrepreneur, the logistics, we can help or we facilitate a lot of our client who is also a logistic company to help them to make this giving happen. So I think it's a lot of the things that as company, if you look through your company, you can find that many ways that if you go just an extra mile, you can actually create a significant impact without much effect on your profitability. And I go along to say again, it is not how much profit a corporation makes, it's how corporation makes its profit and how those profits benefit the community it serves.
That's great. Thank you very much. That's wonderful. And I'm sure while JP and Mike both spend a lot of time in their company making sure they don't have any excess inventory, I'm sure to the extent it ever arises, they'll take advantage of
I go around to a client and say, whatever you like to give, we would like to make it happen. Yeah.
Mike, let me turn to you. Walmart, one of the most global organizations on the planet, and also one of the organizations that I think has been a true trailblazer in terms of really acknowledging and then taking on your responsibility to improve the communities that you operate in. Is there any particular dimension? We talk about the importance of CEO leadership. We talk about innovation being important. We talk about measuring what you're doing, a number of factors as it relates to corporate social responsibility. Anything in particular that you think has been most critical as you look about making the impact you want to make?
Yeah, John, first of all, let me say it's an honor, and I appreciate your comments. I always appreciate positive comments like that. But it's great to be here. I'm honored to be here in front of all of you and to get a chance to talk about Walmart and responsibility and the question that you asked. I would like first even to refer back to the conversation we had behind the screen here. Before we came out, I think we were talking about how Walmart, maybe because of our scale, the size of our company, the reach we have being a global company, some people do say that we're held to a higher standard in the area of responsibility, and that maybe we're looked at under a microscope. I say that's fantastic. I just said this to the others here. I like working for a company that's held to the highest standards and that the world has very high expectation. And I frankly don't mind the microscope because I think that makes us all a better company. And I'd rather be a part of a high expectation than I would to be a part of a company that had low expectations. So the whole area that you're discussing, John, I think it is about responsibility. I think for us, I go back, as JP said, even to our founder. 50 years ago, July of 1962, Sam Walton started Walmart, and from that little small store in a small town in Arkansas, today 10,000 stores, we have over 2 million people that work for Walmart, and we have over 200 million customer visits every week. So that puts us in the area of high expectations and responsibility, and I really do think the founder set the foundation from the very beginning. The purpose of our company from the very beginning was to help people live a better life. Sam Walton said that he'd really like to help people to save money and to live a better life, and then he said all over the world. And that's what we're really trying to do today. That's the purpose that we start. That's where we kind of begin the journey. That then takes us into areas of responsibility like sustainability, a lot of topics like our global women's economic empowerment, eliminating hunger, healthy foods. These are just a few of the big areas of responsibility that we've paid a lot of attention to. I might even go back and take sustainability, because that's been such an important journey. And I say journey because we have a long ways to go. We were talking about this on Friday at our board of directors meeting. Even one of our board members made the comment, you set big, audacious goals in this area of sustainability. And I explained, we like to set big goals. So our big goals there would be to eliminate waste, have zero waste come from Walmart, and to be 100% supplied by renewable energy, and to create products for our customers that are sustainable. So these take renewable energy, and being 100% supplied by renewable energy, that's a big, audacious goal. But yet on this journey, we've made a tremendous amount of progress in that area. So now we are the largest user of solar power in the United States. We're using a great deal of wind power. We're involved with a lot of work in this area. And frankly, on one hand, I'm proud of the journey, but also know we have a lot more work to do. Even the characteristics that you mentioned, John, I love how innovation comes into play in our business, not just in creating merchandise products or not just in innovation in technology and e-commerce and the things we're working on there, but even how it integrates into sustainability. I'm as proud of our toy buyer in the United States who saw all the little wires that, you know, when you unpack a doll or many of the toys that you unpack and you say, why do you have to put all those wires around all the toys like that to tie it to the packaging? So this particular buyer worked with the suppliers, used innovation, that word that's so important, and started eliminating the wire in the toy packaging. And over the last 2 years, through working with our manufacturers, we've eliminated over 1 billion feet of wire in landfills around the world through that one little innovation. So, you know, I think, John, innovation can be big innovation like we do with our apps and e-commerce, or it can be little one-at-a-time innovation like the wire in packaging that all adds up to a big impact on the world. And that's the way I think about responsibility.
That's great. That also, I think, that whole story, I think, links into something that I believe very strongly, and I know the three of you do as well, that the only way to have an effective corporate social responsibility focus in your organization is to make sure it is completely linked with your business priorities. It's not something off to the side, and I think that story of how you link sustainability and your efforts there with the guts of your business around packaging and how you're shipping your products, I think is a great example. So thank you, Mike. JP, let me come back to you and maybe pick up on one of the other dimensions. Mike talked about innovation and the importance of that. How about CEO leadership as you think about this whole area, and how important is that?
Well, I think it's one of the real privileges we have in our leadership roles is the difference that you can make as a leadership team, individually as a CEO. And I can remember very humble beginnings around some of our efforts. In fact, it's kind of a funny story. We had one of our operations people said, listen, we need to start getting some experience with solar. And we actually put in a single light pole in one of our parking lots that was solar operated, and we kind of celebrated that, and we all went out one night when it got dark and looked at it turn on and said, yeah, baby, we're moving now, you know, this is good. And then shortly after that, I happened to be working late one night, and about 10 o'clock I went by there, it wasn't on at all. And so people kind of started kicking rocks at it. Well, I think when you head down this journey, you just have to make a commitment it's the right thing to do. And the right thing to do in the early days is not always the cheapest thing to do. Innovation many times comes out of experience, so you can't do these things if you're only focused against cost. And so we just made, as a leadership team, we just made the commitment this is something we're going to do. So we've been converting. We have a fleet of cars in Pennsylvania that we use to go between all of our facilities and manufacturing plants, and we've been converting that to all electric. So, you know, we're doing that. We're looking at doing some of our distribution centers with solar panels, and we've just made a decision that each time we have the opportunity to look at this as the mix, we do that. And I think that's part of, you know, what you have to do is you just have to say, look, we're going to get there. There's always naysayers in some of these new areas, but it's really part of what the job is all about is to set direction and learn. And then you've got to be willing to fail in these areas. So our guys have heard me say this a lot of times. I had a great boss along the way that he says, look, fail early, fail cheap, you can fail often, and you'll always fail falling forward. So learning how to fail is a big piece of leadership, and doing some of these new things is an important part. It's great.
Very good. Louisa, we talked a little bit about the importance of leadership. One of the other factors that I always think is important is how you're measuring the impact and the results. And you've founded a phenomenal program that you talked about earlier in the wake of the earthquake in China that's grown on from many, many big things from there. But how important is it that you measure the impact of what's happening with that effort to the sustainability of that program?
Yeah, first of all, on leadership, I truly believe that as a leader, you expect people to follow you. And I do believe that people don't follow me in particular. They follow leaders' purpose. What I stand for is what my colleagues, my employees follow me. It is not me as a person. So as such, I think any leader needs to be well aware and acutely sensitized to what we stand for. Now, how do we measure what we stand for? And what we stand for over time can change or should change. I do believe that what we stand for, young generation, old generations, times of difficulties, times of uncertainty, should not be sacrificed. And for us, I think measurements of sustainability, you don't really need to measure if it sustains, it will last. It is about a corporation's longevity, and it's a corporation's ability to adapt to the world and its ability to be relevant to the world that it operates. And I heard many times Mike mention about purpose of Walmart. That is very much founded by the founder, that every CEO share, get inspired, and get passed on. So I think in terms of measurement, we started our corporate giving program as a result of the earthquakes in Sichuan. And since then, we have measured our ability to help, obviously in terms of dollar amount of goods that we help facilitating the donations, as well as the communities that we have, the goods have benefited. But more importantly is the awareness of giving. I believe in the utopia world that every corporation should be a social enterprise, an enterprise that have a measurement of its corporate social responsibility. Every new venture that all of you young people are going to start are going to be well aware of what your corporate inspirations and the purpose. And so at the end of the world, all corporations should be measured by the same measurement. And hence, of course, it will be an idealistic way of measuring it. But if it lasts, we don't really need to measure a lot. The impact, the customer, the consumer will continue to reinforce the message and the purpose that the company stands. So in itself, it's a self-fulfilling purpose.
Good. Thank you. Mike, let me, and we're going to go to the mic and get some questions from all of you in a minute. So be making your way to the microphone if you want to take advantage of getting some insights from one of the folks on the panel. But Mike, before we do that, we've got a lot of young folks here. I know as you think about motivating your associates around the world to get engaged in a lot of the efforts that you talked about, you're really trying to empower the entire organization to bring those innovative ideas. And what advice do you have for the folks with us here today in terms of, as you start your career, as you join great companies like a Walmart or a Hershey, I think sometimes there's a perception that the only people in Walmart that are driving these kind of ideas are the 10 people right in your office suite who've got 35 years, with the company and in the industry. And I have a feeling that's probably not true. So any advice for this group?
Probably I would start on advice to all of you that would be looking ahead to the future, anticipating your career and leading many, many people in the future, would be to start with the word trust. And trust comes from integrity. Leadership, we've talked about quite a bit, and what we say is important, but much more important is what we do. And when I visit with Walmart associates around the world, There's just not a group session like this go by that we don't talk about integrity. It's one of our real basic beliefs of our company. It means transparency, complete honesty, doing the right thing, saying the right thing, communicating, and building a foundation of trust. Yeah, it's interesting because when I talk about it, trust and integrity is something that you build, but then it would be easy to lose. For example, I said to a group of managers last week that in measuring integrity, you're measured by your weakest point. You know, when we measure sales, for example, we'll take a high sales day and a low sales day, and we can say that the average of our sales is okay. But when it comes to integrity and trust, it doesn't work that way. You take the lowest point, and that becomes the standard by which you're measured. So that's why in the area of integrity, you just can't have a low moment. You know, you're not really allowed in leadership to say, yeah, it was kind of a bad day in the area of integrity. It doesn't really work that way because that becomes the new standard of measurement of how you are trusted, how integrity is handled for you. So in leadership, I know all of you are counting on being leaders. You're counting on being CEOs, running large companies, being on a stage like this in the future. You know, it will all boil down that your PowerPoints are not as good, your speeches are never as meaningful, all the motivational work you do never will carry the weight if you're not trusted. If you're trusted, then you have a foundation to build on that all these other characteristics then can propel you into great leadership into the future.
That's a great message. I hope you all wrote that down. If you take nothing else away from this session, I hope you remember that because those are great words, Mike. Thank you. So I can't see because of the lights we have in our face here, but do we have anyone at the mic looking to ask a question?
Hi guys, really enjoying this. It's great. My name is Ronan. I'm representing Team Ireland, and I'm really just want to focus on something that was mentioned about the utopian world of all corporations being social enterprises. I'd just like to get the view of the rest of the panel on that. Do they think that's something that's tangible when the shareholder is the real bottom line? And if they do think it's tangible, what is needed to reach that utopian world?
Sure. JP, you want to take that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I don't think they're mutually exclusive between shareholders and this utopian world. One of the things I always like to talk about is that nobody wakes up in the morning and says, today's the day I go and I goof everything up. You know, so people just don't wake up with that intention. So I do think that it's quite aspirational that these social organisms, be it social commerce, they're well intended because it's you, it's me, it's all of us here that make up that organism of an organization. And so I think that if you're aspirational to do the right thing, and hopefully that'll never go out of style, you're going to end up in a better place than not. And so I think when you have like-minded people with strong cultures, remember culture is a result, it's not something you state, it's really the behaviors that you have. I think that we can achieve those things, or at least directionally achieve those things as part of a journey that takes us to a better place.
We have to believe it is achievable. I don't know when. We also have to realize it's one at a time, and it's never going to be a straight line. So all of you are here. All of you are going to make it happen. And that utopia, not only a concept, I do believe it is not an ideal. This is a purpose, a goal. And I think that one at a time means one leader at a time, one company at a time, one country at a time. And it is not a matter of whether we reach 100%. It is the intention, it is the group effort, it is the all-out commitment, and everything we do, and everything and every person we touch upon, whether it's the biggest, most powerful company or a small company like ours, it makes no difference. because we all want the same purpose. And the purpose, all of you young people, the problem that you're going to be facing, the problem that the world is facing every day is increasingly more and more complex. And so it is probably for us as the current leader is to help you, to empower you, to give you the tool, to give you the inspiration that it can happen. And that for you is to make it that first you have to believe. And that I think that whether that world will come to us, it is not as important as we all believe in it.
Good. Thank you. Next question.
My name is George Pascal Amemu from Ghana. I just want to find out from Mr. Bilberry that you talked about buying mobile phones to communities who produce cocoa in Ghana and Ivory Coast. Now, this is my question. If you take a look at most of these communities, they have bad road networks. We know that these roads are supposed to be done by government. But I think that, or don't you think that instead of buying phones to these communities, the funds that are used to buy, of course, we need to communicate with the cocoa farmers. But don't you think the funds that are used to buy phones, mobile phones, could be channeled to develop the road network so that in terms of transportation of the cocoa to the main city for export will be much more easier? This is my question. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for the question, and I think you're absolutely right. There's no single effort that is going to be the silver or magic bullet in these things. And recently when I was traveling in Ghana, I said to the people I was with, I said, my gosh, what we need is to buy road graders because some of the roads are impassable. They're impassable at the wrong time. The funding, as you well know, doesn't always get to the village in terms of even of the best efforts. And I'd like to address one comment here, and it's really to my colleagues as well, because Ghana is a good example of this. When I was in Ghana, one of the things I realized, a lot of companies are doing a lot of very well-intended things. They're good programs, they're sincere, but there's a lot of one-off programs. I'd like to advocate, and we're talking about this a lot within our industry, specifically around cocoa, is how do we cooperate on a pre-competitive, collaborative basis? I can build a school, someone else can build a school, you try to get teachers. And each one of those by themselves may be the right thing, but they're not a scale thing. But yet, I shouldn't be thinking that I've done enough, or I am out talking about what I've done in Ghana around a school. These are very, very big and important issues that we have to solve for. It should never be part of marketing. It's part of social raising. It's part of being a compassionate society. It's enabling people. And as corporations, we have to find a way that we bring our consolidated will together, collaborating and spending the money for good roads, good schools, educating young women. There's nothing more powerful that you can do around the world than educate young women. And then we can see people raise up, take responsibility, and these things will ultimately be fixed. And so I'm with you. This is one thing that we chose to work on. It'll be part of many things that we choose to work on, and I hope our industry can find ways to collaborate so that we can make a big difference within a meaningful level of spend over a sustainable period of time.
Thank you, JP. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name's Curtis. I'm from Canada. Oh, wow. Check that out. Can I get a photo, please? No, I just want to take this opportunity to pick the three of your brains on leadership styles and how you as the CEOs are able to communicate your vision, the mission of the organization, actually motivate each member of your organization to follow suit and be on that same path. As we're all leaders in SIFE or Enactus, we need to be able to ensure that all volunteers are just as passionate and just on that same path. So I was wondering if you each had a special tactic or how you ensure that your organization is, again, following that same vision.
Mike, you want to take a first crack at that one?
That's a great question, by the way. And, you know, for our company, where we operate all around the world with, as I mentioned, quite a few stores, quite a few associates that work for Walmart, it's one of the great challenges. And it really starts with having a clear understanding of these basic purpose, of how we work, the way of doing business, and that there is complete alignment throughout the organization. So that means that all of our senior leadership has to be completely aligned, and then all of our messaging organizationally throughout the whole company. So all of our communication, because I will not get a chance ever to get to meet all of our associates. You know, if I were every day, I just won't ever meet 2 million associates. So I can't do it personally, but what we do is throughout the organization so that it gets down that every store manager, if we have 10,000 stores, which we do, about 10,500, that means that every local manager has to be aligned with the message of the company from all the way. These key points of responsibility and the key culture and values of our company has to be consistent in all that we do, and that's really the key. We do spend a lot of time on it, by the way. We train, we communicate, we use social network communication, internet communication, but there's no substitute for personal one-on-one communication about our values, our beliefs, and our culture.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have time for one more?
Good evening. My name is Elroy Johnson from the United States, and I am representing the Voorhees College Psych team. I was so thrilled and excited to hear the issue of social corporate responsibility brought up. Currently in my business courses, social corporate responsibility is a key issue. One of the things that I'm learning that ethics also has a role in social corporate responsibility, and that ethics is not always an easy issue. So my question is, how do you feel ethics can build on social corporate responsibility?
Thank you. Louisa, would you like to?
I believe that ethics doesn't equate to social responsibility. There are a lot of ethical corporations that does not serve its communities. And being ethical, I believe, is a basic standard business principle. And that this is regardless of any corporations, whether it fulfills its responsibility. School, university teaches ethics. Parents teaches ethics to its children. But they don't necessarily make those children or students exercise corporations' responsibility towards society. I do believe that if you are an unethical person, it is unlikely that you will, as a leader, would guide the corporation to fulfill its responsibility. So it's interlinked, but I don't think that a standard corporation's responsibility must be built on ethics. But ethics does not necessarily lead to its leader being aware of his responsibility as a corporate citizen.
Thanks, Louisa. You know, we're going to try and keep you on schedule today. It is very frustrating for me to have 3 CEOs, as we have here, and not be able to go for about another 2 hours, because I know the questions would be more than plentiful from the floor. But you have other things to get to. So let me try and wrap it up there. I guess my hope and expectation out of this session is every CEO I know who has a chance to interact with SIFE, uh-oh, I owe $20. I just said SIFE. Yeah. I apologize. Comes away energized, motivated, and you know, just completely enthused about that energy and that interaction. I hope you sense some of the same thing by listening to these 3 CEOs in terms of the importance that each of these 3 leaders places on making a difference in their community while they're doing well for their shareholders and other stakeholders. And I think the passion that you heard out of these folks is very consistent across other leaders in corporations around the world. And I hope that's a sense that you all come away with. So please join me in thanking Mike, Louisa, JP. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you to our executive panel. We now invite everyone to please be seated. Our opening round award ceremony will begin in just a moment.